Today on the newscast, Biden slams Israel once again, just as Israel and the United States are launching joint military drills in a message to Iran. Get all the breaking details next. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. We told you back in January about Juniper Oaks. It was the largest ever joint military exercise held between Israel and the United States. A focus of Juniper Oaks was long-range bombing, hitting long-range targets in a message clearly to the Iranian regime and its nuclear program, which is scattered throughout the vast nation of Iran. And many of those nuclear targets are hardened deep underground inside Iran. Well, Juniper Oaks was not a one-off, folks. This is now, we're learning, an ongoing series of joint military drills between Israel and the United States. Version 2 is going on right now this week. Over the next few days, the Israeli and U.S. militaries are working together on Juniper Oaks, yet another round of Juniper Oaks exercises. And yet again, the focus is hitting targets at a long range with mid-air refueling. Also a focus. Now, as we've discussed on previous newscasts, if Israel, for instance, wants to carry out strikes, airborne strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities, it will need to fuel those fighter jets in midair at some point. So no surprise that this is a focus of the drill this week. But what did Joe Biden say? Just as these drills were launching, and although there is some very close collaboration on the military side, obviously between Israel and the U.S., is all really well in the Israel-U.S. relationship under the current White House? We'll break it down in a minute. Before I do, just a quick reminder to subscribe to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Folks, we mentioned this about a week ago that, man, over 70% of our regular viewers here on the channel are not subscribed. That's crazy, and we want to change that. So to expand our territory for such a time as this, in these biblical prophetic times, it's a big help if you click that subscribe button. It improves our reach across the world through this channel, and it's absolutely free. So click the subscribe button when you have a chance. It would be a big help and help support us in our work to get the message out for the Lord for these times, these upside down but Bible times that we are living in right now. Okay, let's get into it. Juniper Oaks Part 2, I guess you could call it. One of the key components of this, folks, obviously, both the U.S. and Israeli militaries, by the way, have issued statements about it, mentioning everything but the word Iran, saying, look, this is to prepare for regional threats and show that we are aligned against regional threats, etc. You get the idea. Iran was not explicitly mentioned, nor were Iran's proxies in the statements released by Israel and the U.S. regarding these drills, but the message and the target, the potential target, is very clear. When you're practicing long-range bombing runs and the shared threat is a nation that has vowed to destroy Israel, and oh, by the way, refers to America as the great Satan, you can read between the lines. So long-range bombing is one of the aspects being practiced right now between Israel and the U.S. all this week. And I mentioned the mid-air refueling planes. Now, again, either on the way there or most likely on the way back, Israeli fighter jets at some point would have to refuel. It's a very long distance from Israel to Iran, over 1,000 miles. It's not in Israel's backyard, so Israel at some point would have to refuel, so they're working on that with the U.S. as well. An interesting wrinkle there is that the U.S. is set to supply Israel with some of these refueling planes. Israel would have these refueling planes that it so sorely needs. They're not supposed to be delivered until 2025, those U.S. refueling planes. Israel has asked the Biden administration to expedite that delivery, and so far the Biden administration, surprise, surprise, has declined to speed up delivery. So we've been saying here in the newscast that an Israeli strike against Iran's nuclear facilities is highly, highly likely. Does Israel believe it can wait until 2025 when these refueling planes are set to be delivered? Or does Israel feel it's going to need to act sooner? That's the big question, folks. And it all depends on the progress Iran is making. If Israeli intelligence believes Iran has gotten to the point of no return, then Israel absolutely will act. And Israeli leaders across the board have made clear that they will act alone if needed. That means without the United States. It's great to see this joint military cooperation this week with Juniper Oaks, but Israel says, hey, when the rubber hits the road, we'll go it alone if we have to preserve the existence of our nation. Look, as I mentioned, hard targets, obviously, deep underground, fortified throughout Iran, which is a vast nation. This is not a situation like we saw in 1981, where Israel took out the lone nuclear reactor in Iraq, which was then ruled by Saddam Hussein, and not even 2007 when Bashar al-Assad's nuclear reactor was eliminated by the Israeli Air Force. That was also a lone reactor. In the case of Iran, these are facilities hardened deep underground and spread throughout a very large nation. But Israel has been training for this now, folks, for years, and preparing and drawing up plans. You get the idea. So you would think when Israel acts, it's going to be well prepared, and there will be surprises and a great deal of outside-the-box thinking employed by the Israel Defense Forces. Speaking of outside-the-box thinking, or a lack thereof, that brings us to Joe Biden and his comments on Sunday on CNN about Israel, and talk about terrible timing. Again, just as Israel and the U.S. are launching a major joint military drill. Look, the military's close cooperation, no doubt, but at the end of the day, the decision maker when it comes to the U.S. military ultimately is the commander-in-chief in Washington, D.C. Right now, that is Joe Biden. And he had some not very friendly comments about Israel's current government on Sunday. Now, he has said that he is a good friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. He calls him Bibi, calls him by his nickname, and he has talked about the close relations between the two leaders. And yet, Joe Biden has yet to invite Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister of our closest ally in the Middle East, and certainly one of our top 3 allies in the world, in my view. He has yet to invite him to the White House. Folks, this is a horrible breach of long-standing, I don't know if you would call it diplomatic protocol, but Bibi came back into office in December. It's been 7 months. It was late December when he became prime minister once again, and still no invite from Joe Biden. And Biden is digging in his heels there and saying, look, he said to CNN on Sunday, this is one of the most extreme governments that I've ever seen in Israel, maybe some of the most extreme members I've ever seen. Bibi needs to moderate. My hope is that Bibi moderates and gets a handle on this. So not very complimentary comments, and still not saying, hey, Bibi will be at the White House soon. Still digging in his heels there and saying, quote, that Israel is part of the problem in the West Bank, or what we call Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland. Right now we have, look, thousands of people in the streets yet again, these judicial overhaul protests in Israel, even blocking the roads to Ben Gurion Airport. So clearly there's internal division in Israel right now at the worst possible time, where a war may be looming in the region. And Joe Biden pretty much pours gasoline on the fire and makes these comments, highly critical yet again of Israel's government. And hey, allies can be critical of each other, no doubt. It would seem wisest to save that criticism for face-to-face, behind closed doors, but that hasn't been the MO of this administration when it comes to Israel. And again, I think it's outrageous that Benjamin Netanyahu still has not been invited to the White House. Folks, it is a very, very serious problem. So although it's great we see this military collaboration this week between Israel and the U.S., these drills, and presenting what seems to be at least a united front against Iran, behind the scenes, the political moving and shaking and the decision makers in D.C. have a far different view of the relationship. And I believe when the rubber hits the road, there's no chance that the Biden administration will take action against Iran's nuclear facilities. What does that mean? Israel may be forced to act alone. But if you watch this channel on a regular basis, that will not surprise you. But never entirely alone when you have the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Hey, thanks so much for joining us here today on the newscast. Check out tomorrow's live stream. You can join us live between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern Time right here on the channel. Bring your questions for our Q&A session. We'll dig into all of these topics, the prophetic implications, and more live right here tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Do not miss it. Until then, thanks for joining us. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.